seat at the table. I am your host tonight, Tigner. We are going to have a conversation with our weekly investment guru who can help us better understand the nuances of stock and trading, Mr. Ian Dunlap of Red Panda Academy. How you doing this evening, my brother?
I'm good, my brother. Happy to be back. It's been too long. I feel like it's been
Yes,
2 years since I've been on last time, but I'm happy to be back.
it has been a while. A lot has changed
Yes.
over the last few weeks. Um, let, let's start the conversation right off the top. I mean, the stock market closed today. Dow Jones closed down
Mhm.
165.81 for the day, but they were at 28,514. So for a person who's trying to get into this game, what does that mean?
The market, well, some turbulence. I posted last night on Instagram that the market was going to fall last night, and we did. So Monday was great. Apple had an announcement that pushed the market up a little bit, but we're just at, so in March, everyone was afraid to buy because the market was at a low because of COVID, of course. And now we're just at high. So now through election, the market is going to be pretty rocky. If this is your first time investing in the market, it's actually a pretty good time, and maybe in like 2 weeks to begin to get in, because we're going to, I'm not going to say crash, but we're going to push down a bit. So we still want to remember to buy low, sell
At a
high.
high, yeah.
Yeah. And then you don't want to buy it at a high and hope that it will go higher, because that's a recipe for disaster. So over these next 2 weeks, we're going to jump around a lot. And then, of course, because of election, it's going to be volatile because we don't have a clear-cut winner yet. So we got a couple of
So
theories about who may win, but election will give some great opportunities to be able to get in at some cheap prices.
okay, now explain that. You say that the market is going to be volatile because of the election. So what does that mean? Why do you project it's going to be volatile, and why does the election how does it impact the stock market?
Well, if we look historically, 2008, the night of the election, the Dow dropped. In 2012, it dropped. 2016, I was up all night trading that night. The market dropped. So when you're not sure who a winner is, people are going to vote with their dollars, and they're going to sometimes pour their money out, which will make the market fall. Because in any company, if you don't know who the leader is going to be, you're unsure. So I was watching The Last Dance yesterday. So like when Michael left, it was kind of turbulent for
Yeah,
Chicago and have been ever since.
yeah.
Kudos to D Rose. They had a good run when Derrick Rose was there, but when you don't have good leadership, people don't want to put their money into companies or a space or
Hmm.
category
Hmm.
that you don't know that's going to do well. So people are starting to slowly pull some of the money out. And once you have a clear-cut winner, you know what the tax plan is going to be, what they plan to do with the economy, and then what they're going to do, most importantly, around COVID, then people will feel a lot more calmer around putting their money in. The one thing I can say, when Barack was in office, regardless if you liked him or you were Democratic or not, you did have a sense that he had himself together, and the way he carried himself brought a calmness to the market.
That's
So
true.
once we came out of the recession, it was like, okay, great, the Fed is going to ease us out of it, but we do have leadership that is going to allow us to at least have some conversations with other countries and political leaders that probably could go well, and those won't be volatile and volatile interactions with one another. So that does make a huge difference, and that's why people are getting a little bit nervous around this time of year.
Gotcha. Now, on one of your posts I saw, tell everybody if you can mention it how that they can follow you on Instagram, any other social media. But on your post you had on your Instagram account, the entire market is at a high.
Mhm.
Thou must wait.
Listen, what I don't want us to do, because we have a tendency, we know to buy low, sell high, but what happens is we'll wait until the low happens, and then to get to the middle, it's like, let me wait a little bit further. Then we'll get to a high, and it's like, okay, great, everything's went back up. But if you have a house that's worth 400,000, do
Mhm.
you want to buy it at 399, or do you want to wait till it's 300? So
Good
what a lot of
example.
people are doing, they're seeing the gains happen in the market, and now they're chasing them, and then they're buying. And as the market falls down, it's like the stock market thing doesn't work. It's like, no, the timing of when you got in was wrong. So if nothing else, I want it to be my job to at least warn people, okay, these are not the days to buy. Stay away. So that's what I was like, okay, great. The market is going to fall. Everything is at a high. Apple, Microsoft, NIO, Tesla, every company that you will love are at highs. Wait for them to come back down lower. And the great part is there's a mini crash every single month.
That's
So if you
true.
just wait for an opportune time, you can get in. But I don't want people to gamble and risk their money because let's be honest, money is tight
That's
right
true.
now. And I'm very fearful after the election in 2021 comes. I don't think we've seen the worst of the economic disparities that we'll face.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
because we haven't even had the commercial collapse come yet.
That's true. You haven't. I mean, it's been shaky. They've been able to somewhat stabilize with the what do you call it when they gave us the stimulus check
Stimulus, yes.
and they gave the PPP. Some people were able to take advantage of that.
Yes.
So now we potentially are going to go through a second wave of market crash.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right. It's just a matter of time of how deep the cut is going to be between now and going to first quarter, second quarter of next year.
Yeah, I was looking at the news with my dad when he was here because he came to visit, and Nick Saban now has COVID. So with all
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
resources that he has as being like the king of Alabama, you think the kids at the frat parties and like all the kids is still going on dates? They okay now. Now if we roll and now all of a sudden, let's say 30% of people are not able to stay on college campuses, what is that going to do potentially to the student loan debt? Maybe
Yeah.
in 2-3 years. So if we hit commercial issues, because now Microsoft and Google, and we talked about this months ago, but Google, I have a friend in Dallas. Google broke their lease, I think, in April. So now
Well,
Microsoft is just telling everyone, stay at home, stay at
that's
home.
true
So,
because Google said in March, April,
mhm,
we're not going back to the office until July.
yes. And then
So
July
which
came
July
and went.
next year, no,
Yeah.
July next year,
Okay.
2021. So
Yeah.
that's how far they forecasted on not going back into the workplace. So to break a lease make perfect sense for them because at that point, hey, we know we're not going to be in the office from
Absolutely.
April to almost well at least 13, 14 months.
Yeah. And then, I mean, with me, homeschool, we were talking about this before we went on air, but the e-learning, kudos to my parents, it's tough, but I probably won't put my son back into school until at least March.
No, exactly. It
At
makes sense.
least.
And
Yeah.
so winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
For all of my Game of Thrones fans, winter is coming.
Yes.
So and on the real, so what does that mean? So now when places like Texas, Georgia, and the South, who typically close because of snow days, ain't gonna be no more snow days.
Yeah.
So
And flu
even if
season is going to come.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you're gonna end up, this virtual life is gonna be the new normal, and some people are gonna be able to sustain in it, and some are not going to be able to sustain it all. But for people, for corporations and organizations who were in front of the curve, like Google
Mm-hmm.
and other tech companies, it was
Facebook. Yes.
Facebook, it was easy for them to transition, even for rolling out. We've been
Yeah.
able to work. Man, I went to the office today for the first time in 4 months.
Man, you guys do content around the clock. When do y'all sleep? I was on the other morning. You guys started at 8 o'clock. I'm like, good Lord, you guys, but you have to adjust with a climate.
Exactly.
And I've said this a couple of weeks ago, but for those of you that are new in the workforce, and if you have an older management team, there's a tremendous opportunity if you can
Yeah,
help them
yeah,
streamline that. And I even mentioned in the book, The Lean Startup. If you can figure out a way how to do the lean startup model for corporate and help them navigate this, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars out there because companies and school districts are still figuring this out on the fly.
yeah.
So
Right.
even in the midst of this crisis, there are opportunities. You just have to adjust to what is going on in the world right now.
My personal opinion, the ones who are going to have the hardest adjustment in it are older management / corporations who still have an old model that they're working from.
Yes.
And unfortunately, our government. Our government
Yes.
still works from a platform that they don't understand. Thus, that's why we see so much bleeding on the municipal level,
Mm-hmm.
city, state, local, federal, because unfortunately, they don't know how to run it in a corporate type setting.
Yes.
Thus, we see overspending.
Mm-hmm.
Thus, we see frivolous, usage of money and budgeting. So then we bleed in our cities and our states and even the federal government. If they could take the model of corporations,
Mm-hmm.
we could stabilize our government. But they don't know how to do that because most of them have never worked in corporate America. Most people who are in our government either had small business, they worked in a small business or they own, or they're lawyers or they're doctors. So they never worked in a corporate environment to understand how that actually flows.
That's true. Yeah, for
They
those of you
talk
watching,
it.
yeah, there's a tremendous opportunity out there for you. I can't stress that enough. Like for those of you that are starting new businesses, fortunately, you're starting at a great time because everyone is at home and you can grab more attention than ever.
Yes.
But like you said, on the school side, government side, corporate side, if you can, and the great part is that corporations now are forced in a sense to kind of like act like startups. Even Disney, they're adjusting to going from parks and selling legacy content to now they're going pretty much all subscription. So they're going to, yes, Disney Plus will be bigger, but I think there'll be also, if anybody Disney's listening, like contact us. But I think there's a great educational component for kids where you can license those characters and put them into like educational content and maybe license that out to schools because you already have the platform. So if you can teach algebra, science, math, STEM, coding, parents will pay $9 a month for that. Yeah, $12 a month for that. Like everyone is just going to have to innovate in this space to keep up. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, speaking of Disney, they closed today $126.59. They were down $2.37. So in a business, in a trading cycle right now, they're down. That's still relatively high, but $126 on average, most people spend $126 in a month
on
going out
drinks.
buying some. Yeah.
On drinks easily. Yeah.
So
if it dips back to 100, of course, investing has considerable risk. Please consult your advisor. I'm not a fiduciary. Great. So, but if it dips to around the 100 area, that could be a good area to look to invest if you're going to hold for 5 years. So Netflix, Disney, any content provider that has a subscription or a recurring revenue model will do great in this environment. I think that it's going to take maybe 3 years for all of this to be over. In a 5-year period, they'll do very well, especially since they're making the adjustments pretty quickly, and hopefully they'll bring in, some of the talent, the intellectual talent from Bob Iger to consult on some of these things. But on the content side, with them going all digital, and if they cut that small dividend as well, they have a chance to reallocate that capital. And there's a bunch of things that they can do because people won't probably even go back to the parks in 2022.
Right.
So you have to look at revenue. So great company. I don't think they're the top player in that space. Netflix is. I like Roku as well.
What about Amazon and Fire Stick?
I mean, of course, Amazon is one of the big four giants. I mean, I did a whole thing yesterday on Market Mondays about it, but I mean, Amazon is like really in 7 businesses, and they've gotten so big that the government almost wants them to spin off AWS.
Let's talk about Amazon. Amazon, they are the juggernaut of selling, but then they have been very good at hiding a lot of things that of their ethics of work practice also.
Yes.
So for people who don't understand, I mean, they run a real rigid ship,
tight ship
of forcing people to work.
Mm-hmm.
Very borderline. What's the word? It's borderline, I would say, to the point of
unfavorable. We'll use a nice word.
That's the word.
Slightly unfavorable.
Yes.
So if Bezos is watching, we don't ruin any opportunities with Washington Post.
So how do we, at that point, do we invest because we know it's the juggernaut and it could potentially make money, or do we go off our ethics and our values?
I make an assertion. So I'm pro us, but I make an assertion. If you want to look for a perfect company that walk the principles of Jesus Christ, you're not going to find one of Fortune 500.
But that's very true.
So From that perspective, and then also when you look at it from a business model perspective, anytime you have very tight margins, you have to force your staff and team to do a lot more with little. And it's not the best environment for those who work in the warehouses. We've heard a bunch of those stories.
Yes.
But on the consumer side, it's like, do you want to pay more? Do you want to wait for slower shipping? I mean, I'm old enough to remember when you got commercials and you got to wait 4 to 6 weeks for the thing to be delivered.
Just to be delivered.
It's like, do you want to pay those costs to be higher? So there's always a trade-off. So with speed, you are going to have some issues where people have to work longer hours. Now, from an investment standpoint, one of the best companies, and then Bezos is one of the best leaders of all time. Very patient, and I can say for the longest time, and he still does, but not at the same scale, he worked those long hours as well.
He did.
So it's
That's
not
true.
as if he wasn't, he wasn't working 2 hours and then leaving. He was putting in 12, 13, 14 hours a day for a long period of time, and he's still running a tight ship amongst executive management. So we have to take that into consideration. But yeah, it's a top 5 company. Even in our stock club, it was one of our primary picks and still is. And I was telling everyone to get into March. So I love it from an investment standpoint.
So if you got a new player in the game, you got Walmart wanting to play with play.
So smart.
So is that something for us to keep an eye on as far as consideration in that market of delivery and availability of product like Amazon? So is it in a case like this? Mm-hmm. Is it a wise investment for an investor to say, okay, I'm going to put X over here with Amazon and X over here with Walmart, and we just let it sit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Yes, you have to realize that Walmart and Amazon are competitors, but not to you, because I mean, if you don't own 50% or 30% of Amazon, you can own each of them. So in a retail space, I like Walmart a lot. I like Target. I like Amazon, and then Apple, because people forget that Apple has a big retail and they make the most for any retailer. So if you pair those 4 together, you're in a great spot. Now, Walmart Plus, it may not take out the prime or a higher end market, but since their acquisition with Jet a few years ago and then switching over to compete, they'll have enough market share to have an impact. And also too, since everyone is switching over to a certain more of a service-based economy where we need things faster, that's a huge market there from there. I don't know how efficient it will be, but if they can pull off even half of what they're planning, it's already a great stock. It's only going to increase the value of that company even more.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now, the times you've been on, I don't think you've ever had a conversation. What's your take on what they call penny stock?
Hate them.
Why?
Because if something, I always ask anyone black, would you buy any shoes that's under $10? 99% of people that's black are like, nope. But they're like, bruh, I got the stock. It's 23 cents. It's going to be the new
whatever
Facebook. And it's like, those are short-term plays. So if you want to know if a company's good, you can go through like Yahoo Finance or Google, and you can type in top 100 companies.
Okay.
Out of that list, not good. Also, you can look at the revenue. So if they only are making a few $1 million a year, it's not that good. And I tell everyone, like, look at a 5-year chart or 10-year chart. Usually when those penny stocks shoot up, there's a bunch of traders pushing them up higher. And then, so this happened with Kodak. And I made the joke, I'm like, Kodak can't even make cameras well. Like, you think they are going to turn COVID around? Not going to happen. So they'll go up in value for a few days, and then people will chase them late. Once again, I don't want you to buy at a high and hope. And then you buy it at $5 and it slides back down to 23, as Nikola did, as Kodak did, as SPI did. They're not good long-term investments. Like, you don't want to put your future into something and you have shoes or pillowcases that cost more comforter. Like, generally, wherever the stock is, it should be at least what you would pay for a pair of shoes, generally. Okay. So 100 and up. Will you catch a stock once in a while that's $20 and it goes up in value? Yes. But if it's $5, 10, no, it's no good. It's no good. You're going to pay for what you get.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're watching a seat at the table. I'm your host, Tigner. I'm with Ian Dunlap, founder and CEO of Red Panda Academy. Put a pin in Kodak. We're going to come back to Kodak. Got a question from Facebook.
Okay.
What's your take on Home Depot and Lowe's?
Love them. Love them. Love them. Love them. Love
Okay.
them. I like Lowe's a little bit better, but both are amazing.
Home
Both are amazing.
Depot, shoot, Home Depot is $287.09. They close it down $3.27.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't realize they were that high.
They've done very well because everyone's doing projects. So it's like either you're
Yeah.
remodeling your home, you're working on a deck, have to get the supplies from somewhere. There aren't many Ace Hardwares available. So now when those two companies are acting as if monopolies, and women, tell my ladies, I'm gonna get some analogies for you guys, but for my fellas, like if you have the option to draft the two best players, you don't have to pick. Like get both of them. Well, I mean, we saw it just work well for LA and with LeBron and AD. When you pair two powerful companies together like that, and Lowe's pays a small dividend as well, amazing. Like those two companies have done very well during COVID. And we also have seen though, like even with Walmart, Target, they were doing well beforehand. McDonald's is another one. People ask about real estate plays a lot. And I think McDonald's is probably one of the better real estate investment, non-traditional real estate investments that you can make. Walmart is in the same category. When you pair those companies together that were doing well, when COVID hit, we really got a chance to see what companies were performing at a high level and which ones were not. So Home Depot and Lowe's are doing great beforehand. They just end up accelerating through. Apple the same way, Microsoft the same way, Amazon the same way. Truly great companies will perform even better during harsh times like these.
Yeah. But Lowe's, they closed at 173.61, down $1.72.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually showing that after hour trades down 11 cents. So they're now 173.50.
They're pretty. And for those of you who are familiar with Red Panda, Lowe's is in our elite club, and Home Depot is highly recommended as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not something theoretical that I'm telling you guys. These are solid companies. I love them.
Outstanding. That was a question from Steve. Steve from Facebook. Appreciate you. So all questions come through. We will get to those questions as soon as we can. But definitely stay tuned with us and continue coming. Now going back to your Kodak. Kodak is now, poor Kodak. Kodak, I'll put them in the same category as what was that? The BlackBerry.
Mm-hmm.
Even Blockbuster. Companies who were prime time during their time, but then unfortunately were unable to transition or keep themselves relevant in a changing market.
Yes.
You know, just thinking about Blockbuster, I remember paying $4 to rent it. You know, like, do you believe that we were literally paying $4 to rent a DVD?
And then the late fees. I was renting Home Alone 2 like crazy. My grandma was cussing me out when I forgot to remind her to bring it back.
Yeah, you might as well buy it.
At that point, you should.
Right. Yeah. But then here you had a company like Redbox who came out doing the same formula and charging you $1, but people were still going because of brand recognition to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Now, Kodak, same way. Kodak could almost be like IBM. IBM tried to place themselves as being a computer giant, and they never listened to it, and they end up losing. But they came back with e-commerce, and they came back and saved themselves. Kodak I'm thinking that Kodak could do the same thing. They were never really known as a camera, other than the Instamatic camera that they had that went away. But they were more so known for film. That was their sweet spot. So now I'm watching them to see if they're going to be able to come back to rebrand themselves.
Well, before I say what I think about Kodak, in order for that to happen, they'll need good management, great management probably. Then you will need someone who's going to fund that idea.
Yeah.
That can revitalize the brand.
Yeah.
Then you're going to have to go through an entire corporate restructure because you need new blood in an old dog, if you will.
Oh,
I don't
without
think,
a doubt, without a doubt.
yeah, like even IBM, they miss, and then also like Micron is going through the same issue. Like
Yeah.
Micron is what AMD, well, AMD is what Micron should have been. Same thing with NVIDIA. Sometimes like you're a couple mistakes away, and if you execute too slowly and your competition moves there faster and they
You'll
get that
sink.
preeminent position, it's tough because
Yeah.
no one wants to be the 5th best or 10th best in a category. There's really no need for you. Now, if they
That's
get
true.
great management in, maybe they can do some things, and maybe if a private equity company comes in and takes it over, restructures everything, it's possible. But I'm going to put it on my highly unlikely list. And even as great as IBM is, the stock has been down for a long time. They missed out on a bunch of opportunity, and it's a great lesson to learn. Like no matter what the feedback is, you have to hear it. So everyone that works in corporate, to all my VPs, my presidents, CEOs, etc., you have to hear the ideas. And you have to push some of these ideas through faster because corporations have the luxury of waiting. I mean, I know some corporations that would take a year to make a decision on if they were just going to do the project, not to even
Yeah,
complete it.
that's the old corporate way. That's why
That era is over.
that's over.
Yeah, it's over. You cannot operate like that. So I don't think Kodak
Come back. I
make a
got you.
triumphant return. But if they do, I'll be the first to be like, hey brother, I was wrong and you were right.
Nah. So you're right, man. We'll keep an eye on it. We get ready to shut down for the evening, but I want you to give us some closing tips. How can people follow you? What is your recommendation for us to watch for the rest of this week for those who their faith is still just ankle deep and they haven't gotten out into the deep water? What is that one thing they need to watch over the next 24, 48, or 5 days?
Yeah, over the next 5 days, watch Apple and see if it drops. If it drops $10, it's going to be an indication for what the entire market is going to do. And then you can also look at the S&P 500 future, which is the ES. If we go to 3401.75 before election night, Biden will have a home run victory. If we stay above 3560, Trump has a good chance of
Repeat.
retaining office. So those levels are very key because the market is going to give you an indication of what can happen beforehand. So when Hillary was a shoe-in and then 8 o'clock came and she was no longer a shoe-in, the market fell. And if you guys remember, for those of you who were watching that night, it was one of the times that Trump had a presidential tone because you can tell they made him go out and speak favorably of Hillary to calm what was going down in the market. Because when he won, everyone was like, we're going to go to hell in a handbasket. And then everything stabilized after that. And then the next day we went to the upside. So keep your eyes on Apple, keep your eyes on the S&P 500. And then for those of you that are investing, you already know, invest in indexes, pick you 2 or 3 quality companies. If you don't have a lot of money, invest in them every single month. And then if you want to follow me, you can do so on Instagram at The Master Investor, or you can find me on Facebook. My name is Ian Dunlap, or you can go to joinredpanda.com. And I give most of my advice away for free. So don't feel like you have to pay me anything. If you can't afford it, don't join. I probably post 12 or 13 times on social to help you for free anyway.
Outstanding. Once again, I appreciate you with all your wealth and knowledge there, brother. Next week, let's come with a couple of books. Let's look at some books that
I got you.
some reading that could be helpful tools, so, some good educational tools.
I'm gonna bring a good 7.
Okay, sounds good.
That I think will help. And thank you so much. And Munson, my brother, I appreciate you and love you. Particularly, I appreciate you, my brother. I'm glad to chat with you.
Yes,
We got to
sir.
get my brother back on. I haven't talked to him in a minute either.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna come on, but we'll
Kevin.
make sure, Kevin. We'll make sure we
Yeah.
get us a good roundtable going next time.
I appreciate it. If I can do anything for you, please let me know. And of course, I love what you guys are doing. I'm always here if you need me.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you dearly.
Appreciate you. You're
Thank you,
tuned
brother.
into A Seat at the Table with our guest, our weekly guest, Ian Dunlap, Red Panda Academy. Until next week, we appreciate you. Stay tuned for our next show that's coming up, which is Nothing New Under the Sun with Miss Cora Masters Berry right here on A Seat at the Table. Till next week.
Love you.
Make it a great day.